What if the belly fat you've been fighting for years has almost nothing to do with how much you eat? That idea sounds crazy, but stay with me. What if the real reason your midsection won't budge has been hiding inside one organ you've never once thought about? Today, everything changes. Here's a number that stopped me cold. Researchers now estimate that roughly 40% of adults are walking around with fatty liver disease right now. That's 4 out of every 10 people. And the most terrifying part, most of them have absolutely no idea it's even happening inside their body. No pain, no obvious warning signs, no dramatic symptoms in the beginning. Just a belly that keeps growing and a frustrated person who keeps blaming themselves. And here's the part that genuinely gets me every single time. People spend years, sometimes entire decades, counting calories and cutting carbs and dragging themselves to the gym. They try every diet, they buy every program, they do everything they're told to do, and they still cannot crack the code on that stubborn midsection weight. So eventually they give up and conclude they must be broken somehow. Their metabolism must be slow. They must just lack the discipline other people seem to have naturally. But that conclusion is completely wrong. Fundamentally, deeply wrong. And today I'm going to show you exactly why and what's actually been happening this whole time, because the problem was never your plate, it was never your willpower, it was never your discipline or your effort or how hard you were trying. The real bottleneck has been sitting quietly inside your body this entire time, doing its best to keep up with a burden that has been piling on for years, and that organ is your liver. Today I'm walking you through the science behind this. I'm going to show you a simple bitter morning tonic. It costs about $2. It takes 60 seconds to make, and it targets this exact hidden problem from the inside out in a way nothing else does. But before we get to the drink, you need to understand the mechanism first, because once this clicks for you, you will never look at belly fat the same way again. Your liver is the most hardworking, most underappreciated organ in your entire body. Right now, it's running somewhere between 500 and 600 different functions simultaneously. It filters your blood, it regulates your blood sugar, it manages your hormones, it breaks down everything you eat, drink, breathe, and absorb every single day. And it does all of this completely silently, without ever asking for credit, without ever making a sound, without ever sending you a signal that it's struggling. But here's what most people don't know, and this is the piece that changes everything. Your liver is the primary traffic controller for fat in your body. When your liver is healthy and functioning properly, it pulls fat in from your bloodstream, processes it, and either burns it for fuel or eliminates it. It keeps the fat moving, it keeps the whole system flowing. When it's running clean, your metabolism hums along and your body composition reflects that beautifully. But when your liver becomes overwhelmed, when it gets congested and inflamed and overloaded, it loses that processing ability completely. It stops moving fat out. Instead of processing fat and eliminating it, your liver starts storing it. And one of the primary places it parks that excess fat is deep inside your abdominal cavity. That fat gets packed tightly around your organs. It has a name. It's called visceral fat, and it is absolutely not the same as the soft, pinchable fat beneath your skin. Visceral fat is metabolically aggressive. It drives chronic inflammation throughout your entire body. It worsens insulin resistance, which makes it even harder to burn any fat at all. It wraps around your liver, your kidneys, your intestines, quietly strangling your metabolic function from the inside out over months and years without you even knowing. And the cruel irony is that visceral fat is nearly invisible from the outside. You might not even look that heavy to other people standing next to you, but internally, the damage is accumulating. Your body is struggling in ways that no amount of calorie counting will ever fix, because the root problem isn't caloric at all. The most recent projections from liver disease researchers suggest that fatty liver disease is now on track to affect more than 1 in 2 adults within just 15 years. That means within a single generation, the majority of adults could be living with a compromised liver and have absolutely no idea it's happening inside them. Think about that. If you lined up 10 people on your street today, 4 of them already have fatty liver disease. In 15 years, that number could be 5 or 6. Why is this happening so fast? The answer is simpler than you'd expect. It comes down to one specific substance that has quietly invaded nearly every packaged food over the last 50 years. That substance is fructose. Now, most people hear that word and immediately think of fruit, and yes, fruit does contain fructose, but this is a completely different situation. The fructose flooding the modern food supply comes from high fructose corn syrup, sugar-sweetened beverages, processed snacks, condiments, sauces, flavored yogurts, and so-called health bars. The problem with fructose specifically is that it is almost entirely processed by your liver alone. Glucose gets distributed throughout your whole body. Fructose goes almost exclusively to your liver, and when your liver receives more fructose than it can possibly handle, it doesn't eliminate it. It converts it directly into fat and stores it inside liver cells. This isn't theory or folklore. It's been demonstrated clearly in human clinical research with real people in real controlled settings. The evidence is genuinely impossible to ignore. In one landmark study, researchers took children consuming high amounts of sugar and simply swapped the sugar for starch. They kept total calorie intake exactly the same throughout. No calorie restriction, no added exercise. The only variable changed was the elimination of fructose from their diet. That was the single and only change made. And after just 9 days, liver fat measured by scanner had dropped significantly, not after months of hard dieting, just 9 days of removing fructose. Let that fully sink in. A lot of the fat sitting inside your liver right now isn't fat you ate. It's sugar. Your liver converted into fat because it had nowhere else to put it. Your liver in that overwhelmed state literally becomes a sugar to fat conversion factory running around the clock. The more fructose coming in, the more fat accumulates inside it. Now think about a brand new kitchen sponge. Fresh out of the package, it absorbs everything perfectly. You get it wet, squeeze it out, and it's clean and ready again. Now think about a sponge sitting on your kitchen sink for an entire year. Heavy, saturated, greasy from months of constant use. You squeeze it hard and almost nothing comes out. It's so congested with old residue that it's basically lost its function entirely. It can absorb a little, but it cannot release properly. The whole cycle is completely broken. That is exactly what years of fructose overload, seed oils, alcohol, ultra-processed food, environmental toxins, and daily medications do to your liver over time. They saturate it, they congest it, and once the sponge is fully saturated, it doesn't matter how clean you eat today. The backlog doesn't move regardless of your effort. The fat that's already stored stays stored. And that is the trap. That is precisely why you can do everything right. Eat cleaner, move more, cut portions, and still feel stuck. It's not a willpower problem. It's not a discipline problem. It's not a metabolism problem. It is a plumbing problem. And now the real question becomes this: how do you wring the sponge back out? How do you actually get the system flowing again after years of this accumulation happening silently inside your body? That is exactly where bile comes in. And I promise you, once you understand what bile actually does, this whole picture will suddenly make perfect sense to you. Most people have never seriously thought about bile since a passing mention in some biology class years ago, but bile may be the single most important substance for fat metabolism. Here's how to think about it. Have you ever tried to wash a pan full of grease with just cold water and no soap? You already know exactly what happens. The water slides right off. The grease smears around the pan. Nothing actually gets clean. You absolutely need soap, a surfactant, to grab the grease molecules and lift them off. Bile is your body's version of dish soap. It's produced by your liver, stored in your gallbladder, and released into your small intestine whenever fat arrives from your stomach. Its job is to emulsify fat, to break large fat globules into tiny droplets that your digestive enzymes can actually process, absorb properly, or eliminate from your body completely. Without adequate bile flow, fat simply cannot be properly metabolized. It sits in the system, gets rerouted somewhere, or ends up right back in storage where it started. When your bile is flowing freely, thin, abundant, releasing on cue every morning, fat gets processed efficiently, your energy improves, your waistline starts to respond naturally. But when your bile becomes thick, sluggish, and sparse, a condition doctors call hepatic biliary sludge, the whole fat processing pipeline backs up to a crawl. And modern life is almost perfectly designed to cause exactly this problem. Here's something that surprises most people the first time they hear it. The average person eats somewhere between 17 and 23 times a day when you count every snack, every coffee with cream, every small handful grabbed between meals. Your gallbladder needs a clear fasted signal to fully empty and refill with fresh bile. When you're constantly eating all day, that signal almost never comes through properly. The gallbladder barely gets a chance to fully release. The bile stagnates and thickens, and the fat processing system quietly grinds further and further down over time. So the question is, how do you wake that system back up? How do you tell your gallbladder to fully release on demand first thing in the morning for basically free? The answer has been sitting in your spice cabinet for literally centuries, and the human research behind it is far more solid than most people ever realize. Before I give you the full recipe, I want you to understand exactly why these specific ingredients were chosen. This is not a random folk remedy someone invented online. The clinical research on these two kitchen compounds directly targets the exact liver and bile system problems we've been talking about throughout this entire conversation so far. Let's start with ginger. In a randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled trial, the gold standard of medical research, participants with fatty liver took ginger daily for 12 weeks. Their liver enzymes came down measurably, their inflammatory markers improved, their insulin resistance dropped, and their liver fat decreased in a way you could measure on a scanner. When researchers combined multiple ginger trials into a meta-analysis, the pattern held consistently across every study, and lower liver enzymes, better insulin sensitivity, reduced hepatic inflammation throughout. This isn't ancient folklore being repeated by wellness influencers. This is peer-reviewed human data that has been repeated time after time across multiple independent research groups. Beyond the liver specifically, ginger has a well-documented effect on bile production. It stimulates bile acid production and supports the movement of bile through the entire biliary system. That warmth and genuine bite you feel when you drink strong ginger tea, that is a biological signal to your digestive system that bitters have arrived and bile should start flowing. Now let's talk turmeric, and this is the number I want you to hold on to because it is genuinely one of the most remarkable statistics I've encountered in all my research. In a randomized placebo-controlled clinical trial, participants given turmeric supplementation saw their liver fat improve by nearly 79% over just 8 weeks of consistent daily use. The placebo group, about 27%, nearly 3 times the improvement from a spice that has been sitting in kitchens around the world for literally thousands of years. The active compound responsible is curcumin. Curcumin is a powerful anti-inflammatory and antioxidant that directly targets the liver, reducing oxidative stress and lowering liver enzyme levels measurably. It also helps thin bile and improve bile flow, which addresses the sluggish bile problem directly at its root, rather than just treating symptoms after the fact. But here is the critical catch that almost nobody ever talks about. And this single detail is the difference between this drink actually working and doing absolutely nothing for you. Curcumin on its own is notoriously difficult for your body to absorb. Take it by itself, and the vast majority passes straight through your digestive system without entering your bloodstream at all. This is why most people who try turmeric say they notice no difference whatsoever. They aren't absorbing it. The curcumin never actually reaches the tissues that need it. The fix is almost embarrassingly simple. Black pepper, specifically a compound in black pepper called piperine. Piperine dramatically enhances curcumin bioavailability by some estimates up to 2,000%. A single pinch of black pepper added to your turmeric transforms it from a mostly wasted spice into something your body can actually absorb and put to real use. That one detail, that single pinch of black pepper, is quite literally the difference between this drink doing something meaningful and doing absolutely nothing at all for you. Now here is the full recipe. This takes 60 seconds to make. It costs about $2, and every single ingredient has a specific targeted job to do inside your body. First, a strong cup of ginger tea. This is your base. Fresh ginger sliced thin and steeped in near boiling water is ideal. A plain ginger tea bag works fine too. The key word is strong. You want to feel genuine warmth and a real bite from the ginger. That bite is the entire point. That's the bitter signal activating your bile system. Second, half a teaspoon of turmeric plus a pinch of black pepper. Stir both directly into the hot ginger tea. Do not skip the pepper under any circumstances whatsoever. You now understand exactly why. Without that pinch of pepper, the curcumin passes through completely unabsorbed, and you've wasted the most important active ingredient in the entire drink. Third, half a fresh lemon squeezed directly in. Use a real lemon, not bottled juice from a plastic container. Fresh lemon supports liver detoxification pathways and helps stimulate bile flow naturally. Fourth, 1 tablespoon of extra virgin olive oil. I know, olive oil in tea sounds strange. I completely understand that hesitation, but this ingredient is the secret engine of the whole protocol. Your gallbladder does not fully release bile just because something tastes strong or bitter. The single most powerful trigger for gallbladder contraction is the actual arrival of fat. When fat enters your digestive system, your gut releases a hormone called cholecystokinin on CCK. And CCK is the precise signal that tells your gallbladder to fully squeeze and release. In clinical research, olive oil has been shown to produce one of the strongest CCK responses of any food tested, roughly 3 times the hormonal response of saturated fats. 1 tablespoon of extra virgin olive oil is one of the most effective gallbladder release signals you can possibly send your body first thing in the morning on an empty stomach. The ginger and turmeric work directly on the liver tissue itself. The lemon supports biochemistry, and the olive oil pulls the trigger on the gallbladder release completely. Every ingredient has a specific job. They're designed to work together as a complete system. Do not add honey. Do not add any sweetener of any kind to this drink. Bitterness itself is a physiological signal. It activates bile-producing enzymes and stimulates your digestive system in a way that sweetness actively counteracts and undermines completely. The first sip has serious bite. I won't pretend otherwise. Chase it with water if you need to, but drink it exactly as it is, without sweetening it at all. Timing matters here just as much as the ingredients themselves. Drink this tonic first thing in the morning within 45 minutes of waking up on a completely empty stomach. Before coffee, before tea, before breakfast, before anything else enters your body, then wait 30 to 45 minutes before eating your first meal of the day. That quiet window between the tonic and your first meal is where the real work happens. With no food competing for digestive resources, your liver and gallbladder work completely uninterrupted. The bile releases and flows through the system and begins processing the backlog that's been accumulating inside your liver possibly for years without you knowing it was there. Do this every single morning for at least 14 consecutive days. Consistency matters far more than intensity here. The system needs repeated daily signals to reset its rhythm properly. Now let me set your expectations clearly and honestly, because this is not magic and results do not appear overnight, but the progression tends to follow a recognizable pattern consistently. Days 1 to 3, most people notice warmth in their stomach within about 20 minutes of finishing the tonic. Subtle, like a small furnace switching on inside you. That's the ginger working and your bile system beginning to wake up and respond after what may have been a very long period of sluggishness and stagnation. Days 4 to 7, morning bloating tends to ease noticeably. Digestion becomes more regular and predictable. Some people notice their skin looks cleaner and clearer too. That's not a coincidence. Your skin is a secondary elimination pathway. When your liver starts processing its backlog, that progress often shows up visibly on your face first. Week 2 is where the shift surprises people most. Natural, clean, sustained morning energy that's just there when you wake up without needing to chase it with coffee. That's your liver, the organ responsible for blood sugar regulation and morning cortisol metabolism, actually starting to function the way it was always designed to function. Alongside that energy shift, your waistline begins responding, not dramatically yet, but the direction has changed. The trend has finally started moving the right way. Week 4 and beyond is where the bigger picture becomes clear. This is where real metabolic change becomes visible and measurable when you combine the tonic with the right eating approach. The tonic is your daily morning nudge. Clean whole food eating, ideally lower in carbohydrates and refined sugar, is what turns that daily nudge into lasting permanent metabolic transformation. Now I want to go one level deeper, because for many people the issue runs further than just congested bile and liver fat accumulation. There's another layer to understand here. Every single day your liver is filtering alcohol, environmental pollutants, plastics, pesticide residues, prescription medications, stress hormones, synthetic food additives, and the byproducts of years of ultra-processed food. Every one of those daily exposures generates oxidative stress, cellular damage caused by unstable molecules called free radicals attacking your liver cells from the inside constantly. Healthy liver cells have a primary defense against this. That defense is a compound called glutathione. It's your liver's master antioxidant and its most important internal repair molecule. Think of glutathione as your liver's cleanup crew running 24 hours a day, neutralizing damage, repairing cells, and maintaining the structural health of the organ from within. But in people struggling with fatty liver and stubborn belly fat and chronic low energy, glutathione is being consumed far faster than the body can possibly replenish it naturally. When glutathione stores deplete, the liver's recovery capacity collapses, inflammation escalates, fat burning slows further, energy crashes, brain fog sets in, the whole system spirals downward. This is why supporting your body's glutathione production is such a critical part of any serious liver recovery protocol when you're dealing with real accumulated metabolic damage. The most well-researched way to do this is through a compound called N-acetylcysteine, or NAC. NAC is a direct precursor to glutathione. Your body uses it as raw material. It doesn't just add glutathione from outside, it supports your body's own internal production of glutathione, which is a fundamentally different and far more effective approach. When you combine the morning tonic with reduced sugar intake and NAC support, you're giving your liver everything it needs to genuinely recover rather than just manage the ongoing damage. People who do this consistently report the same cluster of improvements: more energy, less brain fog, better digestion, reduced inflammation, and a metabolism that finally starts responding properly. Not because they found some magic pill, but because they finally started directly supporting the organ that was responsible for all of those symptoms the entire time. Let me bring this completely full circle now. Your liver controls fat metabolism entirely. When it's congested, fat gets stored, especially visceral fat deep inside your midsection. The primary driver of that congestion in the modern diet is excess fructose, which your overwhelmed liver converts directly into fat. When congested, bile becomes sluggish and fat processing stops. The morning tonic, ginger, turmeric, black pepper, lemon, and olive oil directly targets this entire system simultaneously. Every ingredient plays its specific role in the chain. This is not about a single drink or a single supplement or a single 30-day challenge that you forget about in 6 weeks when the excitement fades away. This is about finally understanding the actual mechanism behind stubborn fat and systematically removing the obstacles that have been quietly standing in your way for years. And finally, because this matters more than any recipe or protocol, I want you to hear something important that most people in this space never actually bothered to say clearly. Your belly fat is not a character flaw. It is not evidence that you are lazy or undisciplined or broken in some fundamental way that can't be fixed. It is a symptom, a downstream symptom of an upstream problem that nobody ever properly pointed you toward. While you were being told to eat less and move more, the real bottleneck was your liver. Your liver was congested. Your bile was sluggish. Your fat-burning machinery had been quietly compromised for years. And no amount of willpower was ever going to fix a plumbing problem. Now you understand the mechanism completely. You know what the drink is, and what each ingredient does, and exactly how to use it properly every single morning. $2, 60 seconds, every morning, for at least the next 14 days. That is your starting point, and it is a starting point that is genuinely within your reach right now. The organ that has been carrying the burden all along, quietly, silently, without complaint, finally deserves some direct and intentional support. And now you know exactly how to give it that.